I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing good.
Great.
Before we get to the Avs, I'm just curious because this is obviously big news here in Denver with Von Miller, who's been seen as the face of this sports city over the last decade or so. Just from your perspective, you have star players. You got guys like MacKinnon and Landeskog and people that mean a lot to this city. As a coach, what do you think it's like being in this moment of having a franchise where maybe you're on the teetering of rebuilding, but getting rid of a franchise player? How do you view this as a coach?
Well, it's tough because you're dug into what you're doing and trying to succeed, and ultimately it's about winning championships I think it's a fair move by management because you have to evaluate your team and really it's about winning it all or nothing, So if they're in a position here now where for whatever the circumstances are, they don't feel like they have the team to win it all, and they're honestly evaluating their team and they have the opportunity to make it better. And give Vaughn a chance at winning someplace else. I think it's the right move. It's tough because as fans, they have a connection to Vaughn, the city, as he does with them and the city, and it makes it difficult on both sides. But I think ultimately you're trying to get your team back to prominence in the league, and if they deem it as the right move, and I'm sure they've thought long and hard about it. They know all the ins and outs to their team and what's going on and where they can possibly get better in this year's draft. And I think it's the right move, as difficult as it is.
Coach, that's the other element that we're going to miss about Von Miller is how he embraced all the other teams in town. I saw him at a lot of Nuggets games. He was at a bunch of Avalanche games. He'd be there with his big Avs sweater and right on the glass supporting you guys. So you miss that community aspect. However, when he looked at the Avalanche, I'm sure he saw what we saw. He saw a team that was ready to win a Stanley Cup. And I thought last week, you turned this ship around. How did you turn it around? I thought from 1 week ago to today, you're a different team. Do you see it?
Yeah, we're definitely different, and I think it's just a little bit of a learning curve for our team. Like, we know that we have a lot of good players, and we've been a real good team in the past, but personnel's different. And I don't want to say you're starting from ground zero, every year, but you are, starting fresh, and with every new face that comes in your locker room, the dynamic changes and things change. And to be fair, we've been going through a lot of personnel issues here for the first bit of the season, and that doesn't help. I believe that we've lost some depth from last season. A lot of teams have, and then you're starting fresh and you're missing key components every night. And it just makes it that much more difficult to win. Now, we're still missing guys, but I think the buy-in from our group to say, okay, we're probably playing a little bit still like we did last year when we had all this firepower in the lineup. And even last year at times when guys are out, things change. You got to tighten up defensively. You got to be more committed to your checking. You got to put some emphasis on other things rather than just get up and go. And not that we didn't last year, because that's where you're trying to get to. You want your team to be rock solid defensively and still have the firepower and ability to create. But, our recipe over the last few years is the better we check, the better chance we have to win, because the better we check, the more we have the puck and the more we can go on the attack. But over the course of a long off season, players can forget just how difficult it was and just how committed you have to be to that checking game in order to have success. We've got buy-in from our leaders. We've started really paying attention to it. We've tightened up. The new guys are getting used to the system, and now we're starting to come. And really now we have as many guys out as we have all year, but just the last 3 out of the last 4 games, we've really checked well, and we've been able to win 3 of the last 4. So it's not a surprise. It's not a secret. It is the blueprint to success for our team.
It's good to see other guys start to get on track a little bit too, Coach. Kadri, That's a good thing to see, right? Just go out there and play hockey and be the kind of guy you can be, the kind of start to the season for JT. But your big guns show up all the time. I mean, Gabe had 2 and 2 the other night. You know, MacKinnon, while the puck is not in the back of the net, he's dishing off to his teammates all the time. And with all these injuries, I mean, the big guns that are still out there, Kale's now coming alive. He's starting to look like the old Kale McCarr. That's a pretty, I guess as a coach, a pretty good thing to have, to be able to rely on those big guns and know that they're going to give that max effort and hold everybody else accountable too to get this thing going in the right direction.
Yeah, you have to have it. You know, that's the reality of it. You have to have it. I don't, you know, like those guys are such a big part of our team, and you come out of the gates, and understandably, right, Mac comes out and plays a couple games that aren't his best, but it's coming out of 8 days off because of COVID. You can't control it. And in the big picture of things, you just want them to start doing the right things, and eventually his energy comes back, and good things start to happen. It only took 2 games, but you know, those 2 games, you know, everyone sees him come back in and just thinks, well, you know, the Avs should automatically win. But you're missing Landy with suspension. You're missing him. You're missing Nico. Burakovsky leaves last game. And same thing with Kale. He's coming off an injury in the off season. He doesn't play any exhibition games. And all of a sudden you jump into playing for real. It's not exhibition anymore. Everyone's, you know, doing whatever they can to win 2 points, and even for elite players like Kale and Mac, and that it becomes difficult until you get used to that level of competition. Now we see both those guys start to come, and like we knew it would, and now we're starting to carve out some wins. So it's a good, you know, you hate losing games, but it going through a little adversity right away out the gate to help with the buy-in process and exactly what you need to do in order to have success becomes really clear when you're shorthanded, and it can be a struggle. And then you start getting guys back, and if they continue with that buy-in and commitment, then you're going to have success on more nights than not. And that's what we're seeing now, in my opinion.
Speaking of some of the injuries you guys are dealing with, what's an update on guys like Burakovsky, Devon Taves, all of them?
Mikko.
Yeah, so the list is long. Mikko is doubtful for the upcoming game against Columbus. We're playing them Wednesday, Saturday, and doubtful for tomorrow. Burakovsky will know more today. He's day-to-day. Left the game the other night, wasn't able to continue. Hopefully he can get better here for Wednesday, but maybe not. Nichushkin is coming along, which is good to see. You know, so there's 3 of our 4 top 6 wingers, right? So, and he's not long, but he won't play tomorrow night, and probably doubtful for Saturday. And then we'll keep an eye on him after that. Taves is getting close as well, but he won't play tomorrow night either. And Francouz is kind of the same. Like next week sometime he should be getting close to getting in, but he's grinding along on and off the ice trying to get ready to play. So there's a number of injuries there, all to, you know, pretty key guys for us. But it is what it is. Every team's going to go through it at some point. Like I said, we just got to keep grinding out points. But hopefully we're getting through the worst of it and getting closer to getting some of these guys back and seeing our full lineup.
All right, I'm trying to tweet all this out. How do you spell Nichushkin?
You know, Coach.
Seriously, Mosher, how do you spell Nichushkin? Help me out here.
Nichus
Kin.
Kin. Yeah.
Okay, got this. All right. Go on. Proceed.
I just wanted a spelling bee real quick.
Yeah, I just needed that real quick.
How about this, Coach? Because you talked about, you know, the top line guys and guys like McCarr, your top end players have been turning it around a bit. How about Darcy Kuemper? It felt like he had one of those games this last night out where 29 saves on 30 shots, and when it felt like the game could, you know, get close and get back into a sort of a pressure grinder, he made some saves that kept you out in front.
Yep, I agree. I think that was his best game. You know, it's kind of hard to dissect the whole game for the goalie unless you're sitting and looking at every play that comes to the net as a goaltending coach. But To me, it just looked like he was really calm, always square to the shooter, out on top of his crease. He made some difficult saves look really easy the other night, which was great to see. Really good with his hands, made a bunch of blocker saves and a bunch of glove saves that, guys shooting for the top part of the net that we've seen go in a little bit early in the season on him. I thought he looked great, and I mentioned this before in a few of the pressers and whatnot. For a goalie to come into a new system, it's not that much different than a player. Knowing where, if we have a breakdown, where's that breakdown coming from? Where's the scoring opportunity going to come from? Who's the man that's most likely to be open in this scenario and that scenario? So he can think the game ahead of the play and know where guys might be, against our structured defense. And I think it's coming for him, and his game's coming. It can take a little bit. You got to play some games. You got to get in that live action, no different than McCarr and MacKinnon. We believe in this guy. That's why we went and got him, and he works like as hard as any other player on our team. Got a great attitude and wants to get better. And I think that, just playing these games in front of our team is giving them confidence, and hopefully the best is yet to come. But yeah, I thought his game the other night was really good.
Well, you told me how to spell Nichushkin, and I still managed to misspell it on Twitter, and I'm getting all kinds of people telling me I'm an idiot. So anyway, Coach, I need to ask you regarding, and the season changes, right, depending on your personnel, depending on who's available. But is there anything from a long-term, strategically, philosophically, have you changed things this year versus last year based on what you went through in the playoffs? Are there things, power play, whatever, are things you're doing differently with your team this year?
Well, the thing is you have to look at at reasons why you have success, and you have to look at reasons and why you fail and why you don't have success. And for us, a few of the things that we need to stress, and we've been doing it early, and not that we didn't do it last year because you learn from the previous year, but there's a handful of things that we've been working on and trying to get better over the last 3 years. And if you look at just the one series, and we didn't have a great week the week we played Las Vegas and lost, and that's all it was 1 week. But it's at the most important time of the year when you want your guys playing their best, and you have to fall back on the building blocks, the foundation of your game. And so I looked at that series and said, okay, we have to make sure that we're consistently more physical than we were in regular season. You have a ton of success in regular season, and you're trying to get the guys to be more physical in different areas. And I didn't love our physicality in the games against Las Vegas that we lost. And we started to come at the end of that series and enter the fight and become more competitive within the structure. And it's something we've already talked about this year, because we're playing the structure of the game, and that's great. But at the end of the day, you're going to put pucks into areas where you got to come out with them to play offense. And they're going to put pucks in areas where we'd have to come out with them in order to get moving in the right direction and not be defending. And in that series, we didn't do that enough. So we've been evaluating those numbers from last year's team. We've been evaluating them already in the early part of the season this year, and it's something that we had a problem with. We didn't win enough races early on in this year, and we didn't win enough of those 50-50 loose puck battles to recover the puck. And over the last 4 games, those numbers have greatly improved. And next thing you know, we're carving out wins. And then we'll keep an eye on that, but we'll also now move on to the next thing. Like, you're always looking for ways that your team can get incrementally better, but that was a big one coming out of that. So we've seen the physicality of our team ramp up. Like, we've got 1 or 2 big hits a game. It's not just the same guys dishing them out. Jack Johnson has been a guy that's thrown the body around. EJ has thrown the body around nicely here in the first part of the year. We've got some forwards that are finishing checks. Jason Megna is close to leading our team in checks. He has a big check the other night in the defensive zone that lets us take off on a 3-on-2 rush, and just having that aspect to our game where teams know that, like, if you go into certain areas that you're still going to get crunched and keep them on their toes, I think is an important thing, and it's something that we have to develop and get better at. And sometimes that has to do with personnel, but certainly, it's something that we want to work into our game here this year.
Coach, you talk about being more physical, though. What's going through your head when you see MacKinnon out there exchanging pleasantries? I mean, he went at it. He was ticked.
Well, he should have been ticked.
I know, but what
What
is the coach thinking when his heart candidate's out there throwing knuckles?
Well, it didn't surprise me. First of all, it didn't surprise me at all. I mean, Nate's always going to stick up for himself, and although I don't love it, it's not like I want to see it all the time. That's an instinctual thing for him. Like, that's just the way he is. Competitor says that hit was bull crap, and you're not getting away with it, kind of thing. He's the closest guy there. I like to think, a lot of our guys would do that. He just happened to be right there, and he took offense to it. And I didn't like the hit either. I mean, I thought it was needless in the middle of the back, 8 feet off the boards, and Byram goes in almost head first into the boards. It was needless. I'm glad they called the 5-minute major. I think that, sometimes you got to take care of that, as a team, and Nate was leading the charge in that. But we have other guys, I think, that would have done the same thing in that position and being the closest guy, and it certainly didn't surprise me from Nate. He's certainly not afraid to do that.
It's head coach of the Avs, Jared Bednar. He joins us every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Thank you, Coach. Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to play some games, man. I'm bored. Let's get going again.
Thanks.
Yeah, it is a slow spot in the schedule, but hopefully that's a good thing for us. You start getting your game in order. You get some days off. It's nice to feel good about your game going into some slow parts of the season, and more importantly, I guess, be nice to get a few of our guys back in the lineup here in the near future here for these games.
Exactly.
Thanks,
right.
Coach.
All right,
Good
thank
luck,
you,
Coach.
Coach.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Conversations with the head coach
NICH.
presented by